First item on the agenda is a public hearing on the application of a Class BV liquor license by Laguna, Taqueria, and Pizzeria, LLC at 420 Social Street. Is there anyone here that would like to speak for or against this application? I'd like to ask, we seem to have a number of people in the audience tonight, so if we do end up getting a lot of input for the public hearing, if you could please keep your comments to under 3 minutes, and obviously in good taste, it would be appreciated. Is there anyone here that would like to speak for or against 21 LC 46? Hearing none, I'll move on to 21 LC 47, a public hearing on the application of a first-class victualling license by 191 Social Concession, LLC DBA Higher Grounds at 191 Social Street, Suite L30. Is there anyone here that would like to speak for or against this application? Hearing none, moving on to a public hearing on a transfer application of a secondhand dealer's auto license from Tasca Automotive Group North Incorporated, DBA Tasca Buick GMC, to Tasca Automotive Group North LLC, DBA Tasca Buick GMC at 55 Fortin Drive. Is there anyone here that would like to speak for or against this application? Hearing none, moving on to 21 LC 49, public hearing on a transfer application, a secondhand dealer's auto license from Tasca Automotive Group North 2 Incorporated, DBA Tasca Chevrolet, to Tasca Automotive Group North 2 LLC, DBA Tasca Chevrolet at 114 Fortin Drive. Is there anyone here that would like to speak for or against this application? Hearing none, moving on to 21-075, public hearing regarding the use and budget for a portion of the first part of the City of Winsocket's allotment of the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, funds. Is there anyone here that would like to speak for or against this ordinance? If there's anyone here that would like to address the council, I ask that you approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and again, please keep your comments to under 3 minutes and obviously in good taste.
Hi, y'all. How are you? I'm Krista Thomas Sowers. I do outreach work in the city of Woonsocket. I was looking over the list of
your address, please.
I live at 23 Willow Street in Westboro, Mass. I work at 245 Main Street in Woonsocket, Rhode Island.
Okay.
So I was really alarmed by the total lack of focus on the individuals who are experiencing homelessness in the state. We have a really critical issue. I work with, dozens and dozens of people who are currently residing on the street in Woonsocket, and to see that we're putting money into things like an ice skating rink and upgrading chairs, I understand that there's expenditures that we have to keep the city running, but at the same time, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We have an obligation to the people in this city. They are struggling, they are suffering, and there's not enough resources to go around. We've, really tried to kind of go about this the proper way. We really, have made attempts to, invite people from the city to have, conversations at our table, to have them meet with people who are experiencing homelessness in the city. I can tell you that from what I've seen, we had 61 visitors in the drop-in center today, 27 of whom report being currently homeless. These people are attempting to do the right thing. They are trying to go through, jump through all of the hoops that the system asks them to. They are going through the coordinated entry number, and we as a state are failing these people. We're getting calls every day from families, from mothers with children, from people who are disabled, from people who have been evicted and who there are no resources for. And to spend this money without keeping them in mind and to actually do something about this situation, it's just wrong. I mean, it really is. It's wrong to spend this money if we know that these people are outside struggling. So I actually made, a list this is information, this is feedback from a lot of the people who are on the street. We need housing. They say help, housing for the homeless, more housing, more places to go, affordable housing, please. People are begging you and people are dying. I really, I don't know how to drive it home more. I'm happy to speak to anybody who wants more information about this. Since the end of March of 2021, 458 people have come across our doorstep, and 229 of those people identify being currently homeless at the time of intake. This is beyond acceptable, and we have to talk about using some of this money to help the people in your community, in our community, who are suffering. And I know that there are more people here who have more to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the City Council? Please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Francisco Fernandez. I'm homeless, and I'm currently staying at Pastor Steve's spot at the homeless community shelter. And it's hard. I lost everything. I was in your position. I had a job, CDL, driving about 60 hours a day, 60 hours a week, I'm sorry, making 24 an hour. And it was all taken from me from COVID. Still, I'm from Jersey City, New Jersey. Call that gangland. I struggle to survive. I'm not a quitter. I know I'm going to make it, but there's just a lot of people I see out here. This is like the suburbs to me. It's amazing. It's beautiful. But you guys are wasting resources on LED lights, 656, to clean up what? What was that? Can I see that again? Where's that list? Where's the list that says for 653,000 for the fire hydrants? What about public school, public education? Where does that fit in? I mean, seriously, what are you guys thinking about? It flew right over my head. I didn't comprehend that. I can count at least 20 deaths within a month and a half just on drug abuse alone. And I'm one of them who has a struggling drug history. I have a son. Thank God I'm doing the right thing. I take it one day at a time, and it's worked. Butler has helped me. Community Care Alliance has helped me. Serenity has helped me. I refuse to give up. That's always been my thing. I will get my CDL license back, and I will be part of the community, this community. I will be a taxpayer once again. But there are people that are homeless that do want to help, that want help. Not a lot, I'll be honest, and it's true. There's not much that want help. They continue to keep doing drugs. I get it. It's an addiction, and I know that addiction. It's a monster. So I know both sides. But you gotta meet us somewhere. If not the middle, at least somewhere. Help them out. Because to be honest, I'm gonna get back on my feet. But give them a chance. Help them, meet them somewhere. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the City Council?
Jean Michon, 21 Vista Drive, Lincoln, Rhode Island. I'm the Executive Director of New Beginnings Meal Site, and I have a number that will probably shock you. But since November 2017, this is how many meals I have provided to the members of this city. We're actually in dire straits. We have 6 months left at the facility that we're at, and then we will be done unless we find a place. We need money to move us because this number is not going down, it's actually going up. COVID seems to be almost over. We are seeing more families, more working poor, more elderly, which we haven't seen for a very long time, but we need help or this is gonna stop. And where are these people gonna eat? I know, a lot of people say, oh, well, if you don't feed them, they'll find somewhere else. No, there is nowhere else. We're open 4 days a week. And we're asking the city for help to find a new place for New Beginnings. Anything that you can send our way, because this is not going away. These people deserve the respect of this city. And, you know, I appreciate the help that I've received from the council on several occasions, but we can't stop this. We need to fix this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the city council?
My name's Nicole Bergeron. I live at 9 Summer Street in Woonsocket. I work at 245 Main Street as the light heap coordinator. It's part of the Family Support Center. I can't even tell you how many phone calls we get a day asking for whether it be rental assistance or a landlord list or people saying that they're homeless and they have no place to go. It's devastating to have to tell a mother, a father, that we don't have the funds, call this number, call that number. I can't imagine being one of those people that just get the runaround of where am I gonna go? Families are being split up. You know, some parents, you know, have to put their kids with other family because they can't stay there. It's horrible. Working there, it's heartbreaking. It's breaking us mentally to have to tell these families, you know, I can't help you. We're supposed to be there to help these families and we're not helping them. And you guys are not helping us help them. You know, you see them walk in and they don't want to be there. They're embarrassed to be there. They're ashamed. And we can't even help them with what they're asking for. I mean, something as simple as an ID. If they don't have an address, they can't get an ID. If you don't have an ID, you can't get a job. So where do you start? It's ridiculous. We need to help them. We need to get them off the streets. We need to stop looking at them as if just because they're on the street, there's something wrong with them. You know, they did something bad. That's not how it happened. You heard him. Just because of COVID, he lost everything. That could be any one of us. What would happen? What would you do if that was you? Where would you turn? Because the city you're living in is turning its back on you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the city council?
Evening, I'm Norman Booton, 40 House Street, Cumberland. I'm representing the May Organization
Sir, can you
for the
repeat your
Homeless.
name again?
Norman Booton, B-O-U-T-I-N, 40 House Street, Cumberland, Rhode Island. I'm representing the May Organization for the Homeless. Any given Sunday, we feed upwards of 150 people at Boulay Field here in the city, year-round. Rain, snow, sleet, we're like the post office, you know. And not all these people are homeless, but a majority of them are homeless and others can't make ends meet because they just don't have enough money in their budget to put food on the table. We also help out people once they do get housing, help them with furniture and appliances and things of that nature. My biggest beef here is why not the legislators in this town, this city here, advocating for more representation and funds for this city. It seems to me that the state of Rhode Island has a Mason-Dixon line where all this funding stops at the city of Providence. Nothing ever gets above the state, the northern part of the state. We're like a wilderness here in Rhode Island. You know, we're only good for our votes, but we don't get any representation. We get no funding, and basically the city of Woonsocket is pretty much on its own. I hope you folks can step up on that and kick your legislators in the butt to get them to advocate for more funds for the city and for the people of Woonsocket, not so much for the glitter and glam. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the city council?
Hi, my name is Julia Joseph, and I live at 134 Rathbun Street. I think that I'm just curious as to how federal rescue funds to help people. How is an ice skating rink helping people? How are LED street lights helping people? How are chairs helping people? Are the chairs to make sure you guys sit more comfortably while people are sleeping in the streets uncomfortable, freezing? Temperatures are dropping, people are dying. An opioid epidemic is still going on. Just in the last year, 384 people have died to accidental drug overdoses in the state of Rhode Island. And this proposal seems to be ignoring all of that. It seems to be ignoring homelessness. It seems to be ignoring drug abuse. It seems to be ignoring the domestic violence that's happening in this city. It seems to be ignoring the students that are struggling. I'm a junior in high school at Woonsocket High, and I absolutely love this city. I love where I go to school, but I'm struggling. Other students are struggling. There's a lack of after-school programs. There's lack of funding. Our schools are not properly funded. So why are we putting money toward an ice skating rink or to chairs or fire hydrants or LED streetlights. I understand that these are important things, and I do think that these are things that the city needs, but not over housing homeless people, not over helping people get back on their feet, not over helping students get back to where they were before the pandemic hit. Why don't you guys care? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the City Council?
Good evening. I'm Pastor Steve Bacon. I live in Cumberland, Rhode Island. I'm a pastor at Harvest Community Church here at 60 North Main Street, Woonsocket. Hadn't really planned on saying anything tonight, but to be honest with you, I agree with some of what these folks have shared, because our church has been in the business of housing people, housing homeless men for the past 20 years, and we have seen a growth in the amount of homelessness in Winsock, and it's not all just drug abuse and situations where people just can't seem to get their lives together. A lot of it is just the working poor. We've seen this happen over and over again, and you all know we're all struggling with the effects of the economy being the way it is, and with rents as they are, I know that Woonsocket has its fair share and over amount of fair share of supported housing and low-income housing. I know that. I'm well versed in what's going on here in the city, but the fact of the matter is we have a lot more homeless here. As a shelter, we do our best to make sure that we provide beds for the homeless of Woonsocket. We don't try to get people from outside of the city. We try to meet the need that's here. That's the reason why we started doing what we did 20 years ago. And but there's more and more folks, and some of these folks here that work in ministry and social services, I have never seen a group of people that pinch a penny as much as they do. They use their resources wisely, and our shelter, as well as many of them, have been the benefit. Have received the benefit of the generosity of the people of this city in so many different ways. The city opens up its heart in so many ways. It's the way we're able to do what we do, and I think it's the way that they're able to do what they do, and they're very fiscally wise with their money. So I would just like to speak in favor of the fact that I really think that if there's money that's available, if some of it could get earmarked to helping some of these folks for this period of time that we're all in, I think that it once again would prove how the heart of Woonsocket, the administration of Woonsocket really cares about every single people group in this city. And I appreciate the time that you have given me here to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the City Council?
Hello, I'm Marga Morriso. I live at 84 Pinecrest Drive here in Woonsocket. In March of this year, the Congress passed the American Rescue Plan Act, appropriating $1.9 trillion to respond to the coronavirus pandemic in various ways. Woonsocket is receiving the 5th largest amount passed through to cities and towns in the state, totaling $36 million. These funds, which do not yet include additional grants targeted for education and housing and other specifics used, can be used for the following purposes: to support the public health response to the pandemic, to respond to the adverse economic effects of the pandemic, to offer extra pay for essential workers, to improve water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, and to replace state and local revenue lost due to the pandemic. These funds must be allocated by the end of 2024 and spent by the end of 2026. The U.S. Treasury Department places limits on how flexible cities and states can be in the use of these funds. The money should not be used to address a problem that existed before the coronavirus pandemic struck, such as general economic development projects. If there is a proposed large project that responds in part to the coronavirus and in a part that does not respond, it can only spend the federal money on the portion of the project that is used to improve responses to the coronavirus. The Treasury Department allows for one area of flexibility, namely when funds are used to reduce the disparities in health and economic impacts that disadvantaged populations, such as people in poverty and communities of color, have suffered in result to the coronavirus pandemic. The Treasury guidance defines the group of essential workers eligible to receive minimum pay to include public safety personnel, healthcare workers, home healthcare aides, childcare workers, and social workers to the extent that their work involves direct contact with people for the duration of the public health emergency. The Treasury guidance accords the greatest flexibility to government service projects that can be used for any government program except for deposits into a state's rainy day fund or pension fund. I provide this information to use as a checklist against the current proposal being discussed tonight. Do the items on the current list meet this criteria? Cities are required to submit their budgets for review, including an explanation of how the projects comply with requirements. If the project does not comply, it can require the city to reimburse the funds improperly spent. And I don't think we want to end up in that position again, because we have in the past. Additionally, if the budgets are not approved, it will hold much needed funds from reaching our community when the need is so urgent. People are hungry and without shelter here in our city. As winter approaches, this creates a life and death situation. In short, I believe that there are much more appropriate uses for the ARPA funds in our community. This is our chance to support low-wage workers, support small businesses, and to help people get back to work, to replenish services wiped out by the pandemic, and to make once-in-a-lifetime improvements in Woonsocket. The current proposal is short-sighted, contains ridiculous projects that only affect a handful of residents. This proposal is not likely to be approved for use, thus slowing the stream of funds reaching our community where the need is very urgent. I also provided in my letter a list of some better ideas for use. Usually I get paid a lot of money for my big thoughts, so I am providing this to you for free. But these are needed, urgent things that affect the community equally. I hope you will reconsider the current proposal and include projects that are in line with the intent of the funding, are equitable to our communities of color and to people with low incomes, and are accessible to all of our residents.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the City Council? Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Canoyer, seconded by Councilman Gillette to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to the agenda for Board of License Commissioners.
21 LC 46, application of Class BV liquor license by Laguna Taqueria and Pizzeria LLC at 420 Social Street.
Motion to accept.
Motion made by Councilman Susi, seconded by Councilwoman Gonzalez. Comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and 21 LC 46 is approved unanimously, 6-0.
21 LC
Well-
47.
Yeah, we need a motion to amend the title of 21 LC 47.
I'll make a motion, excuse me, make a motion to amend the title on the docket for 21 LC 47 to indicate it's for, let me see here.
First class victualling license by 191 Social Concession LLC DBA Higher Grounds at 191 Social Street.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Motion made by Councilman Canoyer,
So moved.
seconded by Councilwoman Sierra. Comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And 21 LC 47 title is amended 6-0. Madam Clerk?
21 LC 47, application of first class victualling license by 191 Social Concession LLC, doing business as Higher Grounds at 191 Social Street, Suite L30.
Motion pass.
Motion made by Councilman Gillette,
Second.
seconded by Councilwoman Sierra and Councilwoman Gonzalez. Comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and 21 LC 47 is approved unanimously, 6-0.
21 LC 48, application on transfer of secondhand dealers auto license by Tasker Automotive Group North, Inc., doing business as Tasker Buick GMC to Tasker Automotive Group LLC, doing business as Tasker Buick GMC at 55 Fortin Drive.
Motion to approve?
Motion made by Councilwoman Sierra, seconded by Councilwoman Gonzalez. Comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and 21 LC 48 is approved, 6-0.
21 LC 49, application on transfer of secondhand dealers auto license from Tasker Automotive Group North 2, Inc., doing business as Tasker Chevrolet, to Tasker Automotive Group North 2, LLC, doing business as Tasker Chevrolet at 114 Fortin Drive.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Councilman Gillette.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Sierra. Comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and 21 LC 49 is approved, 6-0.
21 LC 50, application of licenses and renewal of licenses.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve, oh, wait a minute, there's, I make a motion to approve new licenses, Class F liquor license, entertainment daily, also renewals for coin-operated machine, pool, table, and billiards, quarterly entertainment, rooming house, victualling Class 1, victualling Class 2, also tabled licenses for Class C liquor and coin-operated machine.
Motion made by Councilman Gillette.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Gonzalez and Councilman Canoyer. Comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and 21 LC 50 is approved, 6-0. Next item on the agenda is public comment. If there's anyone here that would like to address the City Council, I ask that you approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, keep your comments in good taste, and is there anyone here that would like to address the council? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Council President,
Councilwoman Sierra.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes of the regular meeting held
First,
November.
we got to do the consent agenda first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Sorry. I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as listed. However, I'd like to take out separately 21 CO 97 in connection with the report on the redevelopment agency.
Motion made to accept the consent agenda with the exclusion of 21 CO 97. Are there any other motion made by Councilman Canoyer, seconded by
Second.
Councilman Gillette? Are there any other items to be taken up separately? On the main motion to accept the consent agenda, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And the consent agenda is approved 6-0 as presented, with the exception of 21 CO 97. On 21 CO 97,
Yeah, I'd like to,
Councilman Canoyer. We have a motion to
so
accept.
it's like a motion to accept and discuss 21 CO 97.
Motion made by Councilman Canoyer,
Second.
seconded by Councilwoman Sierra and Councilman Gillette. Councilman Canoyer?
Thank you. This is just the report from the planning department in connection with the redevelopment agency. And I would just ask, first of all, thank you for getting this to us. It's similar to the one we had last year, in last September. My first question is, are there any outstanding projects other than the RESH project that the redevelopment agency is currently working on?
No, not this time.
Okay, and that's consistent with last year. What are they doing anything with the RESH project? I thought that was being handled by Mr. Gibbs' organization, Economic Development of Foundation of Rhode Island.
We're doing a little bit of work with the property that was deeded to the redevelopment agency around the utility easements for access for the RESH project.
Right, so they're granting an easement on the property that was deeded over to the redevelopment agency, but other than that, there's no real activity going on. Mayor?
Actually, we are actually composing a list of any potential sites in the city that may be redevelopment agency land, because as you know, in the past, Councilman, I had come before the council pertaining to the acquisition of some land to demolish, to build housing. And with the ARPA funds that we have in our next round, we are putting together a list of city-owned land and Redevelopment Agency land to see what that consists of, where it lies, if it abuts schools, if it abuts city parks, et cetera. So when we come forward with round 2, we'll be including that information. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it was something that we're doing separate and aside from the work that the director's doing with the redevelopment agency. So, but we're still compiling that information.
Understood. So we have a list on here now, the properties held by the redevelopment agency in the report, and they're just a handful of minuscule scattered sites, leftover pieces of prior projects. So there's not a significant amount. It's a de minimis amount of land that's held by the redevelopment agency. But I take your point about the work you're doing. So I'll wait. We can have a further discussion about that. But I do question, as I have in the past, whether it makes sense for the planning department to be kind of jumping back and forth between the council, the administration, and the redevelopment agency, if it's just more efficient to deal directly with the council with these projects. But having said that, I appreciate the report, and I'll circle back at a later date to have a further discussion about this. And I look forward to the list of properties that you're talking about for potential scattered sites. Thank you.
Thank you. On the 21 CO 97, we have a motion made by Councilman Canoyer and seconded by Councilman Gillette to receive and place on file. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. And 21 CO 97 is received unanimously, 6-0. Going back to the minutes, for the approval and correction of the minutes of the regular meeting held November 1st, 2021.
Time now. Council President, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes of the regular meeting held on November 1st, 2021, providing that there are no corrections, deletions, or edits.
Motion made by Councilwoman Sierra.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Gonzalez to approve the minutes from the November 1st, 2021 meeting. Are there any changes or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And the minutes from the regular meeting held November 1st, 2021 are approved 6-0 as presented. Moving on to agenda item 21 CO 96.
From City Planner regarding summary of U.S. EPA Cleanup Grant application for 719 River Street.
You got to adjust that microphone way up.
Yeah, right. All right, I'm Kevin Proft. I'm the city planner. Tonight, I just wanted to provide a summary of a cleanup grant that the planning department has been working on to submit. It's a U.S. EPA cleanup grant application. The maximum amount that we can apply for is $650,000. We may not, we'll apply for the full amount. We may not receive the full amount, depending on the number of applications and the competitiveness of the application. The property that we would be targeting for this cleanup grant would be 719 River Street. We do have two kind of parallel tracks going on at 719 right now, as you guys know. We have the kind of neglected building, the kind of dilapidated building that we're working to demolish through an RFP and bid process. And the council previously allocated some funding towards the demolition of that structure. This application is really focused on soil and groundwater remediation, so kind of the demos for the things above the ground. The cleanup grant would be for things below the ground. We've done a lot of site assessment at this property already. We've conducted a phase 1 environmental site assessment. That's kind of a report that takes a look at the historic uses of the property, determine what contaminants might be present and which should be looked for in future assessments. We've just completed and submitted to DEM a phase 2 environmental or site investigation report. And this is a more kind of in the field, actually taking soil samples, to determine what contaminants actually are on the site and how widespread they are. The findings of that report, in brief, are that there were a number of underground storage tanks, most of which, if not all of which, formerly held different types of petroleum product. At least 2 of them leaked what's called number 6, like petroleum oil. That's kind of a sludgy petroleum oil. And that leak has been delineated on a site plan, which I'll share with you at the next meeting, and I'll discuss the next meeting in a moment. So one aspect of the cleanup at this site is going to be to remove the underground storage tanks and then to clean up the leaking oil contamination that's associated with the tanks. The second main source of contamination is kind of just called urban fill. And there's a high presence of urban fill on the site. It's kind of site-wide. This is just a situation where the soil doesn't meet specific thresholds, set by Department of Health or Department of Environmental Management for different contaminants. And usually you address that by putting some type of cap on the site. So that can be anything from asphalt to gravel, or crushed stone to soil, over a geotextile barrier that kind of prevents that contamination from circulating in the public area. There's a high level of contamination at this site. This cleanup grant, even at $650,000, wouldn't entirely remediate the site. We would potentially be able to address the underground storage tanks and the oil contamination, which would leave the capping, which is a lesser expense, for the future, either through a future grant, a state grant, or at the time of redevelopment, the developer may cap the site as part of his redevelopment plan, his or her redevelopment plan. So that's kind of a summary of where we stand. Like I said, we'll be requesting, or we'd like to request, the full $650,000. There is a local match requirement for these grants. It's 20%. So if we were to apply and get a $650,000 grant, that's a $130,000 local match. So that can come from local funding, like a contingency fund or something like that, or it could come from, potentially, depending on the site reuse, community development block grant funding, potentially ARPA funding, or any, these are 3 potential sources. The grant application would be significantly strengthened and more competitive if the council were to, through a resolution, acknowledge the fact that it's aware that we're applying for this grant, that it understands that there's a local match and what the match amount is, and ideally identify a preliminary source of funding where that match could come from. If you did that and then it turned out that you wanted to fund it some other way, if we were to get the grant, you'd be able to switch your funding allocation in the future. But it would just show the EPA that the City Council, Planning Department, and administration are kind of all speaking in one voice. When we're submitting this application, they're not going to award it, and then it turns out that there's no match available. Moving forward from tonight, we actually did advertise that there'd be public comment at this meeting in the call on this particular project. Unfortunately, due to kind of a miscommunication on the advertisement requirements, public input isn't going to be an option tonight. But I spoke with and public input actually is an option. You have to solicit public input prior to the application. So it is a requirement from EPA. So I spoke with Dan about this issue earlier in the day, and he graciously volunteered to have a special meeting on November 29th at 7 p.m., correct? So November 29th at 7 p.m., and we would solicit public input and review that at that point, and have another discussion about this project.
And
Also-
Kevin, why is that night so special and I gave it to you?
Why is Dan so gracious? Well, it just happens to be his wife's birthday,
And I'm going to be here with you.
and he's going to be here with me. Yep. So much appreciated. So at that meeting, we'll also have our consultant that assists with a lot of our brownfields projects from Fuss & O'Neill, Pat Dowling, who's a former resident, grew up in the city of Woonsocket. He'll be here to answer any technical questions if we have them or if the public has them. So at that meeting, we will solicit public input, and then ideally we'll draft a draft resolution for the council and have another agenda item regarding the kind of match commitment. So that's where we stand.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Proft. I think that you summed it up very well, and I appreciate you taking the time. And there was some, as Mr. Proft said, there was a little bit of miscommunication, but we're going to make it right on November 29th.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
And before we move on to council comments, can I have a motion to receive 21 CO 96?
So moved, Jim.
Motion made by Councilman Canoia.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Gonzalez and Councilman Gillette. Comments?
Just one. Kevin, thank you for that. But I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. As we've discussed several times, we're taking this in steps. So we've already formally approved the demo of that dilapidated building that's falling down.
Correct.
Before we actually move to do anything with the environmental, i.e. put a shovel in the ground, we're going to have another, regardless, notwithstanding whether or not we do the grant request, which I'm sure we will. But even then, we still need to have a formal discussion, a formal approval, and make sure that we're all comfortable with the way this is being structured in terms of mitigating any potential liability for the city, since this is not city-owned property.
We did, Solicitor, is it appropriate to talk about, I guess, the John Dorsey's court order? This meeting?
Well, the council's aware of John Dorsey's role as
Right.
special master,
Yeah.
and the fact that anything that occurs through the special master, there's no liability to the city. So, is that what you were going to?
Well, I guess, so John Dorsey, the special master for 719 River Street, did go, it was, there are two things. There's the demo and there's the assessment grant. For the demo, the city passed a resolution funding AA wrecking up to $349,000.
I mean, I'm just going to interrupt you for the interest of time. We're all set on the demo, and we're all set on Attorney Dorsey's communication and going out for an RFP. I'm just saying, and we've said this with Mr. Dorsey in the room, we are not making any final decisions on the environmental stuff until we have a formal meeting to clearly understand how it's going to be structured and get us all comfortable that we assume no liability. Again, I know he has some stuff in his order, but if we approve the grant, it's not, okay, you get the grant, go put a shovel in the ground. There's got to be more discussion with the council. I'm just trying to make that clear. Do you agree with that, Solicitor?
Yes, I think for purposes of this meeting, it was just for Kevin to describe the process of applying for the grant and whatever ramifications there were from that to the council.
Yeah, I just don't want to be any confusion. No, that's all. Thanks.
One more item about that order, though, was for the actual grant side. We did have to be an owner of the property to apply for the grant. John Dorsey in Westerly, he was the special master of a building there. Same situation, town didn't want to take it over because they were concerned about liability and weren't ready to foreclose on the property, even though I had tax liens at that point and kind of control of the property. And kind of came up with something of a workaround where the city is able to proceed with the cleanup grant without technically having ownership. And that clause is included in that same resolution that was passed to kind of permit the demo to go forward.
Why don't we do this, Solicitor? Can you check with Mr. Dorsey and see if he can be at the meeting on the 29th?
I will.
Thank you. And then we can have everybody.
That's all I know about that particular situation, so I don't have anything else to offer, even if I wanted to.
And we'll have Mr. Dorsey here, and if that doesn't work for his schedule, we'll have to come up with Plan B, but thank you.
And the grant we wouldn't get funded until October or anything. Anyway, you submit the grant, and then I think you get allocated the money the next October. So there's plenty of time to have another meeting in the meantime.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mayor, were you? Okay. So if there's no other comments, I would ask for, all those in favor of receiving 21 CO96 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and 21 CO96 is received 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Proft.
Thank you, Council President.
And out of an abundance of caution, I would ask for a motion under monthly paid bills and accounts, all matters, under monthly paid bills, all accounts, 10.2021 bills is not included in the consent agenda. Could we have a motion to receive and place on file?
So moved, Jim.
Motion made by Councilman Canoia. Seconded by Councilman Gillette. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the monthly bills are received and placed on file unanimously 6-0. Moving on to presentations of petitions, memorials, and remonstrances. The only item under that item was 21P20, which was a request of Vice President Ward to address the following items. I won't even list the items since Councilman Ward is not here this evening and is not here to do his presentation. So I'll move on. There are no recognitions and announcements, and moving on to unfinished business of previous meetings.
21070, authorizing transfer of city land.
Motion made by Councilwoman Gonzalez, seconded by Councilman Canoia. Comments? Hearing none, all roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Canoia?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilman Gillette?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilman Susi?
Yes.
President Gendron?
Yes, and 21070 is approved 6-0, second passage.
21071, an amendment of Chapter 17 entitled Traffic of the Code of Ordinances, City of Woonsocket.
Motion to move?
Motion made by Councilwoman Gonzalez,
Second.
seconded by Councilman Canoia. Comments? Hearing none, roll call,
President.
Councilman Gillette.
I have a drawing I need to pass out.
Thank you.
It's done by a professional.
I had some time on my hands, so I went to River Street and sat and watched the traffic flow. And for about 2 hours and 10 minutes, as a matter of fact. During that 2 hours and 10 minutes, I was in part of the time in my truck, and I was also standing outside of my truck next to one of the buildings. There's a little dot next to the buildings. There's a pole there, stops people from parking on what used to be a driveway because of the gas meters going into the building. And from that spot, I could see both sides, traffic coming up River Street and traffic going down River Street, and was able to make quite a few observations by doing that. If you notice, there's one where the little dot is, there's a house, and then there's a driveway, a parking space, and then another driveway, and next to that, there's a telephone pole and a hydrant. Where the telephone pole and the hydrant is, there's some yellow paint. You can't see it on a drawing or even on the drawing that we got from the city of Woonsocket, but there's no parking next to the hydrant and as close to that, next to the telephone pole and that entrance to a parking lot. Then there's the one, coming back, there's the one space again, and then another entrance to another parking lot. The first parking lot next to the hydrant is a parking area for people across the street, directly across the street. They park over there. They don't have any other parking area that I saw. So I talked to one woman that had gone to her vehicle, and I was telling her that there was a possibility we're going to be eliminating parking on this side of the street up until, just past the fire hydrant. And she says, well, I really don't care. She says, I park in my parking space, and whatever happens, happens. I said, okay, thank you very much. Next person I talked to, I was seated in my truck, and he pulled up behind me in a truck similar to mine, and he was getting out, crossing the street, and I said, excuse me, I said, do you live here? He says, no, he says, I'm coming to visit my brother. I'm coming to do some work for him. I says, he says, why do you ask? I told him, I said, we're going to be eliminating the parking on this side of the street. And I says, what do you think about that? He says, well, where am I going to park when I come to visit my brother? So I says, good question. That's one that I brought up at the last council meeting. I said, what about in back of the house? That particular building has the little driveway that goes down directly in back of the house, kind of like at an angle, and there's practically no parking down there as it is. It's almost impossible to have parking for visitors, and it's a two-family house. A little while later, a gentleman came down from the second floor in that same building, and it was the brother that the first brother had come to see. And I asked him, I says, do you know about the elimination of the parking on this side of the street? He says, no. He says, I didn't hear anything about it. He says, why would you be eliminating? I said, well, there were some complaints about trailer trucks, possibly, the chance of causing an accident. And he says, well, I don't see anything. He says, I live here. I've been here for the past 4.5 years. He says, I don't see any problem there with the trailer trucks as long as they're not speeding. The majority of his conversation from that time on was about speeding, and his complaint about the speeding on that was to the point where he says, we're actually thinking of selling the property and moving out because the speeding on this street is ridiculous. As he said that, there's a vehicle that came down River Street from my back, came by us, and we both looked at the vehicle. He said, see? And so, you could tell the frustration and the anger that he had within him. And he was explaining to me that there was one time that he tried to go across the street with his son in his arm and looked both ways, but the car was speeding so much coming from the old Grossman store down through River Street, was coming down, and he took 2 steps, saw the car, and backed up, jumped back onto the sidewalk, and yelled at the guy, saying, you almost hit us. The windows in the car were open. The guy kind of took offense to that, stopped his car, backed up, and was going to fight the guy, for yelling at him because the guy got scared. He had his kid in his arm, Anyway, the person that lived on the second floor said to me, he says, Councilman, he says, let me tell you, he says, I wasn't going to hit this guy. He said, I just told him, I said, please be careful, please be careful. The guy was drunk as a skunk. So, we have people that are driving who are drinking. We have people that are speeding, and there's no speed limit sign that I saw in that vicinity. And so my thought is, as I have on the sheet that I gave you, is to, number one, reduce the speed limit from 25 to 20 miles an hour. Put the speed signs up so that people know there's a new speed limit and that they need to slow down on that street. The only space that I would concur that should be eliminated just in case is the one between the 2 driveways. There's one space there, and between the 2 driveways on the right-hand side that would give, and this happened, by the way, 2 trailer trucks are coming. It just happened once in the 2 hours and 10 minutes that I was there. One was coming this way, the other one was coming this way, and the one that was coming this way, for some reason, was taking a wide turn. I don't know if it's because he was inexperienced or wasn't sure on where his bed would hit or if it would hit the pole, but he ended up stopping, letting this other truck driver, or trailer truck driver, to come right by him. If that one space that's right there on that corner, on that opposite corner, was eliminated, then these people could go make a wider turn, and this truck driver wouldn't have had to stop and would have had a clear view of where he was going, even though he was taking a little bit of a wider turn. But the other parking places, I saw absolutely no problem whatsoever with the other parking places. Is the 219 River Street is where, coming back toward the old English Fish and Chip, those parking places had, there was no problem that I saw. And yeah, so I know that this legislation doesn't address what I'm looking to try to do, but I'm hoping that the council will take into consideration that the quality of life for the people living there. Some people bought that property, some people rented those properties with the thought of being able to park on the street. Taking that parking away from them, although it's not that many houses and not that many parking places, even though it's just a little bit of inconvenience for a few people, we are affecting the quality of life of the people that are living there on that street. So I would ask that two things before I make my final comment, is that just this one space be eliminated, and also that the yellow be painted there on both the one space and the in front of the hydrant, which is normally painted anyway. It's just totally worn out so people can't see it. And the other thing would be to lower the speed limit and post it on both sides. I guess the speed limit would be, if I'm suggesting 20 miles an hour, but I don't know if it's possible to put 20 miles an hour around curve, just so that people will know that it's just around that curve that we need to have people slow down. I think those two things would actually take care of the problem, because I really feel bad for the people that are living there. They have a tough enough time as it is when they park their car across the street and have to bring their groceries to the house. If they have to go, the corner house here, if it has to go down in back of the house, they have to come up the driveway and go to the front of the house, and it's a long ways. We would definitely be having, affecting the quality of life. So the legislation doesn't say that, so I guess if the council agrees with me on what I've been talking about, then maybe we can table this and put it in different words for the next council meeting, and possibly try this before this new approach, before we go with the approach that we have right now, because the new approach won't have hardly any effect. The one space is not going to do that much to hurt their quality of life, and if it actually ends up working and the police department sees that it is working and that the problem that was seen before is eliminated by eliminating that one space and possibly knocking it down to 20 miles an hour, then we could leave it, the rest of it, the way that it is. So if there's going to be any other comments, Mr. President, before we go to vote on this, after other councilors have spoken, I have intentions of asking to table this legislation so that we can rewrite it for what I was just talking about.
Any other comments?
Councilman?
Councilman Canoia.
So, Councilman Gillette, thank you for the. How many houses are you suggesting have limited parking? I'm not talking about people that like the convenience of parking on the street versus parking in their designated parking spaces on their property, but how many, from your perspective, literally have inadequate parking, off-street parking?
Most of the vehicles that I saw belong to people visiting.
Yeah.
Well, I say most. There was only 5. There was 3 in front of the 219.
No, how many houses, I'm saying, how many of the homes have,
No parking?
yeah,
Across the street, they have,
Councilman Gillette, just so that we can all follow, there's the Riverside and then across the street.
on the
So-
Riverside,
okay.
226 is the number of the house, although it's not on my drawing. 226 is the one where the driveway goes down in the back. They have very limited parking. 220, the last one, 266 and 270 something, I can't see the full number. That house there has their parking across the street over here. I don't know where the people at 252 park. I don't know. I didn't see and talk to anyone.
So if I'm understanding you, it's 226 that you believe has a limited amount of off-street parking.
Just, I think 2 or 3 spaces in the back of the house. There wouldn't be anybody, nobody would be able to go and visit them.
Yeah.
There is no other parking.
Is that a 2-family?
Yes.
2-family, okay. Okay. All right. I might consider what you're suggesting, but I will not support 20 miles an hour. I think that's just, that to me is just too slow. 25 I could live with, but 20 is just, I won't be able to support that. If we get to the point where we want to
Okay.
post but I would also defer to the public safety officials as well. I'd like to hear what they have to say if this. So that's it for me for now. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Councilman?
Director D'Agostino.
Yeah, so the engineering department put this on in the interest of safety, really. And I viewed the last meeting. I wasn't here, but Director Gillette suggested 7 to 3:30, Monday through Friday, no parking.
It ended up being, it was 6 to 6. 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yeah, I don't even think that's necessary, really. Most of the trash trucks are done by 3:30, okay? And I can tell you from experience, some of these drivers are not too good. You know, and the average speed is 40 miles an hour. It's not 20. That's throughout the city, by the way. I don't think anybody even looks at a speed limit sign anymore, unless you're 60 and over. But anybody else is, you know, it's the Wild West. And I think the director will concur with me. I've seen cars go down Ninth Street at 80 miles an hour, without exaggerating. But anyway, I don't want to get off topic, but in the interest of safety, 2 trash trucks crossing one another in this area sometimes is hairy. And I wouldn't want to see someone carrying groceries or a child or whatever, you know, get injured. So I think that was the mindset here. So I think, you know, 7 to 3, 7 to 3:30, whatever, that's Monday through Friday. I think the congestion is pretty much done. And then, you know, they can park at 3:30 or whatever. And that's my analysis of traveling River Street every day, you know, 6 days a week. So, but do as you will.
Thank you. Before it gets away from us, I just want to echo what my colleague said. I'm willing to discuss changing this if there's a reason for it, but I would never support a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. I'm of the mindset that if everybody that travels the road is traveling at 25 and there is still a problem, then we may need to look at doing something with this posted speed limit. But I am tired of people saying everybody speeds on that road, so let's lower the speed limit even more. If they're not doing the 25, and I am sure that they're not, that's the first problem. And let's enforce what we've got. And I'm not advocating for a speed trap or anything, but I'm just saying that I would not support lowering it, except around a school, because there is some value to that, because it does slow people down in a school district. But this, I wouldn't support that here. Director, is in looking at what engineering put together, do you have, I know that this was done more on the engineering side, but for public safety, do you have a strong feeling either way if we were to, is there a way to shorten the distance and still have it be adequate? Maybe right now it's 340 feet, I believe. 340 feet of no parking. When I look at the aerial, it looks like everybody has ample parking off-street, is what it looks like from here. But I didn't drive down in the back of all of these properties, and I honestly don't know where the property lines are. So it's difficult to see whose parking area belongs to who. But, right now in the picture, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 cars parked behind the houses on the riverside. And there's still room for more cars. And then across the street, in this picture, there's 6 cars parked with room for more cars there. And then in the area where we took down a few buildings, there's even more parking. So I don't know that, I don't know what the answer is, but it does not look as dire as what you're indicating, but I'm looking at a satellite picture, not.
The area that you said where we took down buildings, there's more parking. We put all new curbstones and sidewalk over there. So had that area been designated as a parking area rather than street parking for the people who don't have much parking or visiting, that would have been perfect. But if we were to do something like that, we'd have to rip up some of the new sidewalks.
I'm not saying that the city should provide parking. I'm not looking to do that, but
we own that property.
Director,
yes.
Would it be possible for us to get a plat map that would show the lot boundaries, so we can see, maybe overlaid with a satellite picture, so that we can see where the lot lines are and who has parking and who does not? Because, if you're talking a 4-family and they have 4 or 6 cars, it looks like there should be room, but again, you don't know where the property lines are.
Yeah, sure.
So, to try and save some time, what do you say we table this evening? Because in any case, even if we did go forward with it, I think we've already acknowledged that the times can be shortened even more, make it 7 to 3. No parking, which would even lessen the impact more. So, with that being said, could I have a motion to table?
Just add one thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, Director.
Just the traffic division also, reviewed this. So one of the significant problems too was we had a problem of tractor-trailer trucks going through 2nd Avenue, traversing that way. So again, like I said last time, we're just trying to make it a little more inviting down there. But I suggest you table it. We'll look at it again with the traffic division and the engineering department and see if there's something we can do. And I'll go out there myself and see where people are parking and where they're not parking. So you can table it and we'll come back with it.
Good, and I will tell you, you bring up a very good point. The traveling on 2nd Avenue is a real problem, especially for the people that live all along 2nd Avenue. So that's good that you've got that in mind. I wasn't even thinking of that, so thank you for bringing that up.
Welcome.
With that being said, can I have a motion to table?
So moved, Jim.
Motion made by Councilman Canoia, seconded by Councilman Susi to table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And 21071 is tabled 6-0. Moving on to new business.
21072, transferring funds from contingency to tax assessing and treasury division, permanent services.
Motion approved.
Motion made by Councilman Canoia, seconded by Councilman Susi. Comments? Hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Canoia?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilman Gillette?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilman Susie?
Yes.
President Gendron?
Yes, and 21072 is approved, 6-0.
21073, authorizing connection to the City of Woonsocket Waterworks System.
Motion made by Councilwoman Gonzalez, seconded by Councilman Gillette. Comments? Director, you've obviously approved this. Not an issue with this. It's single-family residence
Yep, just a simple.
tying into an existing water main, and it's very good. Any other comments? Hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Canoia?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilman Gillette?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilman Susie?
Yes.
President Gendron?
Yes, and 21073 is approved, 6-0, first passage.
21074, requiring the mayor through her administration to issue a request for proposals seeking vendors to make multiple upgrades at 105 Cumberland Hill Road, also known as Albert G. Breen Memorial Animal Shelter.
Motion made by Councilwoman Sierra, seconded by Councilman Gillette. Comments?
Mr. President?
Councilman Susie.
Yeah. So I appreciate that, putting that on the docket. Are we leaning towards now funding two separate shelters? I think that's my concern. Because I know it sounds like the administration has plans for another location, obviously, that they've made clear to us. And at this point, I'm wondering if we should just have another sit down amongst all of us in the administration and find out where we're going to put the permanent animal shelter, that the one that we all want to fund and see looking really great, rather than spending our resources on two different locations. That what it looks like to me, right, that we're leaning towards. So
I think that's a good point, but let me ask you, how much is the upgrades going to cost at the current animal shelter?
That's what they are.
Neither do I.
Right, yeah.
That's why we need the number.
Well, that's where a workshop, I think.
No.
That's what the ever.
That's what this is for.
Yeah.
This is going to give us a number.
Right, okay.
And if it comes in at $10 million, we probably won't do that. But if it came in at $72.50, I'd fund it myself. So, no, I just don't know.
Right, yeah.
And I think it's nothing but getting a price.
And then we can decide later on if it's where it's going to be.
Of course.
Okay. All right.
Well, because we don't know.
I think it's just right now, and I think a workshop would still be a good order. I mean, we can vote on this tonight, but to decide where we're going to have,
I think a workshop would be absolutely necessary once we have all our facts.
Fine. Perfect.
Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Canoia?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilman Gillette?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilman Susie?
Yes.
President Gendron?
Yes, and 21074 is approved, 6-0, first passage.
21075, an ordinance to designate use and budget for a portion of the first tranche of the City of Woonsocket's allotment of American Rescue Plan Act funds.
Motion to approve, Jim.
Motion made by Councilman Canoia,
Second.
seconded by Councilwoman Gonzalez. Comments?
Council President.
Councilman Canoia.
So we heard a lot of good feedback this evening on the list of funds to be spent. I just want to comment on a few of the things we heard. One gentleman asked about education. This isn't, he's correct, there's nothing in here for education, because the Education Department has a separate $41 million allocation that they're dealing with. This is the municipal side. The Education Department has $41 million of similar funds above and beyond the 36 that we're dealing with. So that's that. Gene, for New Beginnings, obviously can't thank you enough for everything you do. You're a gem, but I was a little bit surprised, and I'm going to ask the Director of Human Services, if you don't mind, Ms. Plays, were you aware that New Beginnings is required to find a new location in 6 months, that they're losing their location? Because that's the first I'm hearing of it.
So we had a roundtable discussion probably about a month ago with many of the individuals in the room to try to get a better understanding of what each organization does And I think it's beneficial for us to know if there's duplicative services. Thundermiss, CCA, we met with Pastor Steve. At that time, Jean did mention something, but I don't recall her saying specifically, can the city provide some buildings or any locations for us? That's the best of my recollection about that conversation.
Councilman?
Oh, go ahead.
Just in reference to what you just said, it's a new development. From what I hear, just last night there were some news that were.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm at liberty to say, but
that's fine.
it's a very new development.
Yep. Okay. Because again, let's just back up a minute. The city's looking at 36 some odd $million of coming to the municipal side, 41 some odd million coming to the education department, and they'll deal with that piece, the school committee. Tonight before us is a list of spending items that are under consideration. Had the public hearing earlier this evening, and that adds up to about a little more than a third of the total spending. So it's not the whole pot. The other thing is we did have a meeting here a month ago on exactly this subject. We had a meeting right here in this council that everybody was able to attend if they wanted to, and we discussed, excuse me, just about every one of these items. So this is not,
Excuse me.
not new, but it's still good to get the feedback. And I was just a little bit surprised. If it's a new development, it's a new development. And I'm sure we can find ways to help as much as we can. The other thing is, I appreciate that we have several folks from out of town that come into the city to help us. We can use all the help we can get. We all receive from Rhode Island Housing, the city of Woonsocket, 16%, almost 16%, 15.9% of our housing stock is dedicated to low to moderate income housing. It's tied for the highest in the state. No offense to my friends from Cumberland, but Cumberland is at 6%. Woonsocket's at 16% almost. And again, tied for the highest in the state. There's a lot of communities that don't do anything close to what the city of Woonsocket does. So I don't want there to be any suggestion that the city of Woonsocket, their elected officials, and the community at large somehow don't do their fair share or don't care about people that need housing, etc. I think we do a lot. Can we do more? Perhaps. It's certainly worthy of discussion, but let's not pretend we're not doing anything. In fact, we're doing some of the most work in the state, frankly. There was also something that some of us received, but was in the public domain last week, that Rhode Island to provide $5 million to fund emergency shelter beds as winter approaches. And Rhode Island's going to provide $5 million. The funds will be allocated to 7 homeless service providers in the state, including Community Care Alliance, which is here in Woonsocket as well, Harvest Community Church, among others. So from the state, there's a $5 million allocation going to address shelter needs. In addition, the city received a significant CARES Act allotment of funding late last year, mid last year, into this year. And again, there's a lot of misinformation out there. Unfortunately, people live in the Twitter world, and they think that's the real world, but it's not. So we've provided to Community Care Alliance almost $1 million in this past year, fiscal year 21-22, for rehousing, shelter operations, rapid rehousing, shelter operations, homeless prevention. Okay, almost $1 million that's been provided to the Community Care Alliance, who does good work addressing many of the needs that folks up here were talking about. In addition to that, there's funding to the Sojourner House and certain other organizations through the CDBG. But close to $1 million, of which last I checked, there was about, of that million, there's roughly 260,000 that has not yet been used. So again, I just want to disabuse some of the people out there that there's no funding from the city going to the need for shelter or the homeless or for any of that type of stuff. In fact, there is. I heard a comment that much of this list is only going to benefit a few. I respectfully disagree. We're going to spend, north of $500,000 on fire hydrants. Does anybody here like that? No. It's frustrating as heck, but it's got to be done. Because when one of these homeless shelters here in the city catches fire and the hydrants don't work because they're all rusted up and gummed up and so forth, then we'll hear, why didn't you take care of the hydrants? And it doesn't benefit just a few, it benefits the whole city. The ice rink. The ire of everybody, including our friends at the Providence Journal. Those beauties. So we're talking about doing an ice rink for $250,000, less than 0.15% of the total $36+ million allotment. We have soccer fields, we have basketball courts, we have baseball fields, and we are forever being told that there's not enough activities, there's not enough for the things to do for the children. The children get in trouble because we don't have enough activities for them. So we talk about providing an ice rink so there's an activity that people can participate in the wintertime, although we're talking about a year-round ice rink. And it's one of those, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. As I said, we've all heard, I shouldn't say we've all heard, I shouldn't speak for everybody, but I know I have heard on numerous occasions that there's not enough to do for the children in the city of Woonsocket. We need to do more. So we're going to spend $250,000 potentially on a year-round ice rink so that there's something that can be done in the wintertime. We're going to pay, and everybody that wants to participate and use that type of facility, it's not just a few people, it's open to everybody. We're going to pay our employees as part of this, approximately $135,000. There's roughly 100 employees. That's not just a few people that are going to benefit. There's about 100 employees. LED lights and ornamental street lights. So we spent an extra $100 and some odd thousand out of our operating budget in fiscal year 21 because this got delayed due to COVID. And when we set up the operating budget for fiscal year 21, the anticipation was that the LED lights would have been installed, providing significant savings, number one, and number two, which is near and dear to the hearts of many, is better environmentally, doesn't use as much power, helps, quote, decarbonize the city, as some people are so hot on. But we weren't able to get it done because of COVID, so we ended up overspending by about $100 and some odd thousand because the existing lights are more expensive. So we need to spend $665,000 to get this thing up and running, and people are complaining. It's good for the environment, and then if we don't have lights, they complain. If we do have lights, it's like you can't win. We can take this out. It just means we're going to have less money to spend elsewhere. Again, that $110,000 that we had to spend in fiscal year 21 could have been spent on some of these other organizations, but we had to spend it on the streetlights. So I have no problem with making that kind of a long-term investment. It's going to accrue benefits and provide savings for years to come. And the fact that we have, quote, ornamental lights, it's just a line item describing the lights that are out there. There's still street lights. They're the lights along Main Street and Market Square and so forth that have to be upgraded. It's just along with every other street light. So we're spending close to $750,000 to put in something that's going to help us on the environmental side as well as save us money going forward so that we can put money into the senior center and all these other services. Backup generators, that's a public safety matter. I'm not going to spend time on that. Blight removal. So the blight removal is $1,350,000. I will be proposing an adjustment to that, but that's to deal with what we were talking about earlier this evening. A big piece of that is 719 River Street, which is a hazard. And we've been putting it off because we haven't had the funds. But you'll have a homeless person go in there it'll either burn down or fall down, and then we'll get criticized for having not knocked it down. There's an animal shelter retrofit for $250,000. That's what Councilman Susi was alluding to, I believe. That's the old, that's the concession stand. I will not support that. I would suggest that we put the money into the existing facility at 105 Cumberland Hill Road. But again, we have to get an RFP out to get an understanding of the numbers. We have street paving and sidewalk repair, $3.5 million. Not sure how that benefits just a few. Included in that is $1 million for sidewalks. I will be very honest with you. I don't use the sidewalks, but very little. Not going to benefit me a whole lot, but I know a lot of other people walking around the city will benefit from it. And unfortunately, we're an old city with old infrastructure. And when somebody, particularly a homeless person, trips and falls on a sidewalk that's in disrepair, we'll get criticized for not having repaired the sidewalks.
So far, I've heard you attack homelessness.
That's what I heard this evening. I'm not attacking anybody from home. I'm not.
You just jumped on homelessness.
I said if a homeless person trips and falls on the sidewalk.
Homeless person.
Yeah.
You know how many teenagers go out and tag shit all the time?
Councilman Canoia's got the floor. I'll expect the same respect that, good night. I expect the same respect that we gave you when you were talking.
Okay. We also have the very exciting ergonomic chairs, which isn't anything about chairs. What it is about fixing this situation up here where half the time when we have a full house here, we don't know who we're talking to. We're talking about getting an oval for this instead of these old desks so that we can actually have dialogue amongst ourselves without having to turn like this and turn like that, etc. There's been no money that's been put into Harris Hall for years and years and years. So what we're going to do is upgrade this facility so it's more conducive to the work that we do. In addition to that, it's repairing and fixing up one of the conference rooms down on the second floor. It got labeled as ergonomic chairs. It's got nothing to do with chairs. It has to do with a dais and improvements downstairs. $53,000 again is, less than 1% of the total. We have water meter replacements, whether we like it or not. We have water meters throughout the city. Every house and every business has a water meter. Those have to be replaced, and they're a problem. Everybody that has a water meter is going to benefit, not just a few people. We also have the old water treatment plant. Again, that's a broad term. That's for the old water treatment plant, a new facility for the outside crew, and other improvements that have to be done. And then we have the administrator, Mr. Luber, that we have to pay for, and then SurveyMonkey. So it all adds up to $14 million. I will propose a couple adjustments at the right time to reduce that spending by about a little over $1 million. I would reduce the blight removal by $975. I'd get rid of the animal shelter for $250, and I would add back a stage upgrade at World War II Veterans Memorial Park for $150,000 and improvements to the Albert G. Breen Animal Shelter at 105 Cumberland Hill Road, a placeholder of $50,000 until we get more information. Notwithstanding, as you said, we'd have to have a discussion and a dialogue. But the point is this. This is a portion of the $36 million. It's not all of it, number one. Number two, the suggestion that we're not doing enough for, and again, I appreciate the gentleman that stormed out, but that's what we heard tonight, that we're not doing enough for the homeless folks and people that need housing and so forth. And I would suggest to you that it's wrong, it's incorrect. I see it all the time. We've got these people that peddle misinformation. It's simply not true. We live in a city, whether we like it or not. People want roads and need roads. That public safety, you can get in their ambulance and get to someone's house or get somewhere else. The other thing we've done is provided out of those funds $250,000 to Landmark Medical Center. Again, I'm not sure how that's just benefiting a few people. That's everybody that goes to Landmark is benefiting it. So I will be supporting the majority of this evening, with the exception of a couple of minor adjustments I just alluded to. But I'll.
Councilman Canoy, why don't you make that motion now for the amendment, because it may.
Okay, so I'll make a motion at the moment to reduce the blight removal from $1,350,000 to $375,000. Reduce the animal shelter retrofit from $250,000 to $0. To add $150,000 for a stage upgrade at World War II Veterans Memorial Park, and add a $50,000 placeholder for improvements to the existing animal shelter, the Albert G. Brian Animal Shelter at 105 Cumberland Hill Road. And then lastly, just the wording in terms of the the old water treatment plant. I would just add, make it clear that it's dismantling the old water treatment plant / new facility for the outside crew that doesn't have one, and other miscellaneous water upgrades.
And that would lead
All be subject to a final approval from the council once RFPs come through.
And that would be, bring us down to a $13,668,407 expenditure tonight, leaving $1,025,000 to yet be determined where that money will go. So it lowers the original expenditure for this evening from $14,093,000 down to $13,068,000.
Correct.
Motion made by Councilman Canoia, seconded by the chair. Comments on the amendment?
Council President.
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
So in reference to the animal shelter, if we're not, if we're gathering information, why do we have to allocate it to one location versus the other? Can't we just put animal shelter till it's decided?
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Yep.
That's fair.
And the other, in reference to all the social services that are we discussed? This is. I just want to make sure I'm discussing it in the right place. I did have a conversation with Council President earlier today, and that was one of my concerns, that I didn't see any social services in this original plan. And while I know a lot of the people that are working in very hard and making a big difference in our city through all the different organizations that are here, as a council person, for me, while I know that there's a great need, I actually, even today, I was speaking to a well-founded that has been in our city for a long time, working and doing a lot of great work, and everybody seems to be having a lot of needs, but I want to be able to advocate real numbers, real needs, and that part of it I could not express. We actually talked about perhaps even having a session where we come and we see the work that is being done and get some real statistics of the things that are happening, where the money really is. Because honestly, we're not really going to know until we start just having some kind of a relationship with the people who are in the trenches doing all the work. I can say I know there's a need. Can I define that need at this moment? No, I can't. But do I want to be a part of making a difference in that need? I certainly do. So while there was an open, I think the administration had placed give everybody an opportunity to be able to write some ideas. I wish we would have gotten more from these nonprofits that are working. I know some of the needs are not exactly in here, but I think it's a conversation that we need to have. It needs to be better defined, and I know, as for me, and I'm sure some of the other counselors, if we have that defined need, we are more able to do more for you. So I would encourage you to just write put some things on paper. Let's have conversations where I personally am willing to go to your places, see what's happening, and would love to advocate for you. But I find myself ill prepared to do that today.
And Councilwoman, that is part of the purpose of the $1 million that is going to sit idle, because as you explained, you and I had a lengthy discussion, and it was funny in a way, but it was sad in another way, because we both said, okay, this problem is this. What do you do to fix it? And neither of us had that answer, and just putting money to it is not always the right answer, because if you put the money in the wrong place, then you can sometimes do a disservice. And I haven't had a chance to read the letter that Margot presented to us, but she did say that she presented ideas and specifics. I don't know what they are yet, but that is sometimes more beneficial, because it's something that is tangible and we can discuss. But, you know, saying that we need to do something but can't verbalize what the something is, I wouldn't know how to fund that. So thank you for saying it, but that is the purpose. If we've got money sitting here in reserve, we can always address it down the road.
I wanted to say one more thing about the
amendment?
About the ice skating rink.
All right, well, that's not on the amendment, so we can go back to the ice skating rink, but just on the amendment, any other comments? Hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk, on the amendment.
Councilman Canoia?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilman Gillette?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilman Susie?
Yes.
President Gendron?
Yes, and 21075 is amended on a 6-0 vote. On the main motion as amended, comments. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Okay, so in reference to the ice skating rink, I know it seems like $250,000 for an ice skating rink is a lot of money, and there's a lot of different things that we can do with that. But one thing that I see that is permeating in our city, there's a lot of depression. There's a lot of families that don't really get that time to go out and spend time together. There's a lot of young people that don't have a lot of things to do. This is one joy thing that I think that we can provide for the city, that everybody, even the people in need that we're talking about right now, would be able to have one focus to just go out and have some fun. I think that is one element, one small element that that if we can help to provide for families and for our city, I'm in big time support of that, because I do see the need of kids who are just in their homes and don't have anything to do. And I would encourage families to just really embrace this and make it a part of our community. And I love the fact that I want to reiterate what Councilman Canoia said, this is a year-round thing. It's not just going to be just a wintry thing. And we've seen already the results of when we've done the ice skating rink and the joy that comes in. And we need a little bit of more of that in our city. And sometimes that's the intangible that, you can't really, allot to how many people you have helped or whatever, but that all of the people that we serve need a little bit of joy. And I'm hoping that this will provide some of that.
And I would like to expand on that. I would like to give the mayor and her administration credit for the ice skating rink. I have been knowingly beating up the mayor for years about the ice skating rink, because I know it was a very popular and enjoyable event for people when we had it just for the winter months. And I have been relentless on the mayor every fall going into the winter, indicating that we should be doing something, because it was such a popular event, location, and a lot of people got enjoyment out of it. And the key to that, too, is that it's free. Unlike the one that you have in Providence, where they charge an astronomical amount to go on there. It's only for the wealthy or the people who can get to Providence. This is in our city. And all you have to do is get to the ice skating rink, and you'll be able to use it for free. And I think that it's a huge improvement. And if people don't see the benefit of that, then I think talk about being short-sighted and missing out on a great opportunity. So I am very supportive of an ice skating rink, and the part that I really want to credit the mayor on is that she found a year-round solution that gives us that interest and excitement 365 days a year. So some people say I talk for nothing, but every now and then maybe I get through to the mayor. This might be one of those times. Any other comments on the main motion as amended?
This is the motion on the whole.
This is the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, Mr.
Councilman Susi.
Yeah, and I just want to make it clear to everybody here too that out of this is 14 million. Our first round here, we'll leave another million if we do the amendment. There's actually
We already did the amendment.
There's actually another 4 million from the first amounts of money that we had allocated to us of 18 million, according to this. Right, there's an $18 million in total, right? And the mayor's concurring with me, of which only $14 million tonight has been identified. So that's $4 more million that we have in that first allocation. We also have another 14 million coming, or more than that, actually, another to take us to 36 million on the next round of funding, which will come sometime early next year. So I, for one, will certainly advocate strongly at that point, in the future, not too distant future, for small business development grant funding, for housing and mortgage assistance programs, the social service organizations that are in dire need, obviously, whether it be the homeless shelters or the food pantries. There's going to be room there, and I'm going to certainly be advocating for that. So tonight, I don't have enough information to make concrete amendments as to what we want to see that spent on, but this is one small piece of a very big pie. Again, on top of whatever the school department will be spending their monies on, so there'll be many great things happening on that side as well, education-wise. So let's not give up hope. I mean, there's certainly a lot more time, a lot more opportunities to see what we want to get done. So I'm hopeful for that. So. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Question. Somebody wants to. Can you do that? Or?
We need no, we really can't open the floor up. We passed the public comment. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say I meant no disrespect to Councilman Canoia or
good.
the council.
No.
Just we've been coming here for like 4 years, year round.
None taken. We thank you.
Offense. No, thank you for saying it, though.
I'm out of town doesn't mean I don't respect the city.
No, we thank you.
Thank you.
I'm passionate about what we do.
And we invite you to come meet the people.
Please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Then it may answer some of your questions about what we're doing, where the money we want the money to go, we want the help to go. So come meet the people.
I really can't allow any more comments. All right. Thank you. Just any other comments from the council?
And I will just address that briefly, then we'll move on. No offense taken. Seriously, that wasn't my point at all. My only point is, I forget if it was you or somebody else suggested.
We love the city of Woonsocket.
No, I understand. No. And somebody said we need to get our legislative folks to advocate. I agree. And I'm just, the point of my comment was I want some of these other communities to step up to the plate as well. That's all I'm saying. So none taken. We thank you for your efforts. We can't thank you enough.
Nothing gets past Providence. No funding gets past Providence. We found out that Providence was...
All right. Thank you.
We want Woonsocket to get recognition too.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council? Councilman Gillette.
I happen to know that the soup kitchen is looking at a property in my neighborhood, as a matter of fact, that's going to be selling for $300,000. So I would ask the council to keep that in mind, that there is a property available, and if we can do something to help them buy that property in order to ensure that they'll have something permanent in the future and not have to worry about a landlord, we might want to do something like that for them with the monies that we have left over near the end of the first round or, well, actually, by the time we get to the second round, it'll be too late because the odds are the property is going to be sold. So we'd have to look at it now.
Well, I think that is all part of when Councilwoman Gonzalez said the fact-finding mission. We have to look at everything and make the decision how to best use the money. And I'm not comfortable tonight saying that that's the best location, the best use of the money, the right time and the right price. But I agree with you. Everything has to be kept open, and we will get to a better place once we have better information. So
that's great.
Good. Any other comments?
Just
Councilwoman Gonzalez.
I have a question on the premium pay for 670.
Yes.
Once we pass this, or we have to vote, but anyways, so will those funds be released? Because I've been getting questions on when the
This is an ordinance. It will take two passages. I don't believe this can go in as an appropriation ordinance because it's just doing the budget. So this will require two passages, and at that point, it'll be the administration's ability to dispense with that money as they see
Okay.
Going by what we approve.
Thank you.
Okay? Any other comments? Hearing none. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Council President,
Oh, Mayor, yes.
this is the appropriate time
Well, I don't know what it
to
may
address
be.
the ARPA funds.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So I too would like to excuse my back. I would like to thank everyone for coming out this evening to share your feelings. I would just like to either reiterate or expand on a couple of things that were brought up. And I want to thank Councilman Canoia for sharing the information pertaining to the funding that we've been distributing and distribute over the years to the different organizations like CCA and the Sojourner House and other entities throughout the city. We understand that there are needs, and we allocate funding because we know that there are needs. I just want to be certain because in our survey, we did have folks who indicated that they would like to see some of the money going to education. But as you are aware now, if you weren't, there is $41 million actually going to education in the city of Woonsocket, which is more than what the municipal side is receiving. So if you have any concerns pertaining to education, I would suggest that you call the school committee members, speak with them. They're putting together programs for the children. If you know of programs that are available, instructors that are available, please reach out, share that with them. There is a limited amount of resources, and a lot of the schools in the state are gobbling up those resources to help the children. In addition to that, as was also mentioned, the $5 million that Governor McKee allocated to homelessness, two of the organizations listed are right here in Woonsocket. So there are funds that are coming. That is Community Care Alliance, Harvest Community Church. So those funds are coming to this city to help with homelessness. We have that article if you need it. In addition to that, if Jean reaches out, says she needs help, if she calls the office, this administration has never denied any help to New Beginnings. We have always helped. In fact, we even linked New Beginnings to a major retailer at one point who was delivering food to them on a regular basis. You may not see all the things that happen or hear about all the things that happen, but there's a lot that happens that may not meet social media outlets or even a local newspaper. In addition to that, Pastor Steve is someone we work with on a regular basis. We do have a heart. He's on the front page of the paper on Sunday. Thanks to an idea from one of our employees, we have donated 18 suitcases with supplies inside for the gentleman at Harvest Community Church, and we've done things besides that over the years. This particular employee has also secured other suitcases that would be filled with items to give to other homeless individuals from not at Harvest Community, but at another entity. Margot Morso, you indicated that and read off everything we can do with the funds. I just want to reassure everyone that what was read is exactly what we know and what we're following, and everything that we are allocating funds to has been researched. Every expense has been researched to be certain that they are allowable expenses. In addition to that, we have, there was somebody made a comment about trying to find employment and employment for youth or something to that effect. Every single year we advertise to employ our youth. And every single year we get fewer and fewer people responding. We assumed that teenagers wanted to get out of the house, earn some extra cash, have some expendable funds. We advertised in the newspaper. I don't think we had 5 young adults from the city of Woonsocket who applied for a job. And I will address the young girl in the back. I think it's Miss Joseph. You spoke and you got a nice round of applause for what you said, but I would like to share something with the folks who are here, the folks who are at home, and this council. I personally met with you, and you shared with me the fact that there was nothing for the children in this city to do. There was no ice skating rink. There was no roller kingdom. Those are your words. You said that to me. You told me that the children have nothing to do in this city, and I listened to you. So you could get up there and criticize me and the rest of this administration to try to fault us for funding an ice skating rink. That rink is getting funded, and those children will use it. No, I have the floor, not you, okay? And I asked you, what do you think we need to do for the children? And you said, ice skating rink, roller kingdom. Well, let me explain. Roller Kingdom is something that's invested in by a private investor. If you know a private investor who would like to open a Roller Kingdom, then you let me know and we'll work with them and we'll help. But I would like everyone to know that when you said to me, the children have nothing to do, so they walk the streets. And when they walk the streets, there's nothing to do, so they break into cars and do things like that. And I said to you, that I thought that was basically utterly disgusting, that because a child is bored, they should be breaking into people's cars and violating what people own. So you can stand there and you can criticize what we're doing, like painting fire hydrants. I'll forward an article to you that states one of the highest rates of lead poisoning in the state of Rhode Island is with children in the city of Woonsocket. That paint that's being removed from those fire hydrants is lead paint. So I understand you want to get up, you want to voice your opinion, but you can also call my office and you can ask me questions, and I will answer the questions, and maybe you'll agree with me on some things, and maybe you won't. But I listened to you for over an hour that day. We funded $2.6 million from state funds to fix World War II Veterans Memorial Park. There are more children on those basketball courts, I think, than any basketball courts in the state of Rhode Island, because it's an outlet for the kids to do something. We installed lights for them. They have full access to control the lights. We gave them the responsibility. They go on those courts. They respect the courts. Director Gillette can tell you if we have calls for service for problems. I don't think we do. They're respecting it. They can stay out there till 11 o'clock at night, so they have something to do. That's the point of adding recreational activities to the city. In addition, to answer some of the questions that were brought up about the next round of funding, the city of Woonsocket offers a home repair program. We already do that. If there are people who own homes, if they're having a hard time making ends meet, if they need to fix their home, we have a program where there's funding available to them to have their home fixed. We were the recipient of a $4 million grant to help remove lead from homes in the city. Again, to remove that lead from the little hands and the little mouths that like to go near the windowsills and potentially ingest that. We also have a down payment program for those folks who are probably paying too much in rent and could probably buy a 2 or 3 family home, collect rents, and utilize our down payment program to help them to purchase the house. So we have a lot of programs that are available. We're not just looking at these things now because we have ARPA funds. And like Councilman Susi said, this is the first round of funds. We had to start somewhere. Some of the other items, like homelessness, we're very in tune to that being a problem. The problem is we haven't found a solution as to how to handle it. And if we all took one homeless person and took that person and worked with that one individual to help them find employment, make sure they have proper clothing, put them in a position where they're earning a living so their self-esteem rises, that's what we do to accomplish moving people from homelessness. And I can tell you, and I wouldn't talk about it if you weren't so adamant tonight about homelessness, but it's exactly what we did 2 months ago. There was a homeless gentleman in the city. He is now employed with the city of Woonsocket. We're working on housing with him. He's working, he's earning a paycheck. He is very, very appreciative, and we are very happy, and our hearts are warmed by that. So that's what we do too, but you just may not know that we do it. But I'll tell you what we don't do. We don't go on social media and criticize you like others who are actually sitting in this room, thinking it's thinking it's making a difference, and that posting nasty, ugly comments about the administration, about the council, and about what we do here in the city is going to be effective. And if you think you're going to make inroads doing that, it won't work. And I'm referring to you, Bonnie. So you keep posting your Twitters and you keep posting your vulgar comments and along with your little counterparts. It won't work, because I am not afraid to stand up for what we do and what we believe in, and we're going to continue to help the people in this city, and we're going to do it respectfully. And when you want to be respectful, we'll work with you. Until then, continue posting. So everyone here, and if you want help, you call my office. I'll work with any agency you're working with, and we'll get you employed. Because if you truly mean that, and you sound like you're saying it from the bottom of your heart, we will work with you, and we will help you along with Pastor Steve, and we'll get you back on the road to success. Okay? Thank you.
Councilman, just
Director D'Agostino.
Yep, just one final comment. We constantly post positions at the Highway Department and other municipal jobs constantly, and we very seldom get applicants. So whenever, if anybody's looking for some employment or whatever, the door's open.
And I will add to that by saying every business that I go into in the city of Woonsocket is looking to hire people. And I know some very specific ones that pay a very decent wage and would love to have people come through the door. So know that they're out there. And Director D'Agostino, you make a good point. We have jobs right now in the city of Woonsocket. So that being said, I will look for a roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Canoia?
Yes.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilman Gillette?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sierra?
Yes.
Councilman Susi?
Yes.
President Gendron?
Yes, and 21075 is approved as amended, 6-0, first passage.
21R104, authorizing the cancellation of certain taxes.
Motion passed.
Motion made by Councilman Gillette,
Second.
seconded by Councilwoman Gonzalez and Councilwoman Sierra. Comments?
Council President, this is a total of $3,905.07 for a variety of abatements, most of which are prorated homesteads.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and 21R104 is approved, 6-0.
21R105, authorizing the Director of Public Works to sign letter consenting to the merger of Suez S.A. into Veolia Environment S.A.
Motion to pass.
Motion made by Councilman Gillette.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Sierra and Councilwoman Gonzalez. Comments?
Council President,
Councilman Canoyer.
for the solicitor. John, have you reviewed this?
Yes, I have, and so have the
Sean?
lawyers, Sean and
Yeah.
Mr. Cohen.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and 21R105 is approved, 6-0.
21R106, authorizing the Director of Public Works to solicit bids through public advertisement for the purchase of sand and gravel from Cass Park.
Motion to approve?
Motion made by Councilwoman Sierra, seconded by Councilman Gillette. Comments? Hearing none, all those,
President.
Councilman Gillette.
Just a comment to the Public Works Director. My God, this is complicated. You know all of this stuff? I mean, I was looking at it, and I literally reread some of it, you know, and all of the qualification, the kinds of bidding, investigation of bidders, the agenda for interpretation, all of this stuff. I mean, it's something that, well, between this piece of legislation and a piece that the planning department gave as part of our docket, I'm just saying that I am glad to see this caliber of work being done. Thank you.
Well, you're
Any
welcome.
other-
And judging from this map right here, I think you could jump right in.
Touche. Touche.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and 21R106 is approved, 6-0. There being no further business of the City Council, I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Canoyer, seconded by Councilwoman Gonzalez to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and we are adjourned at 9:02. Have a good night, everyone.